Hey viewers, welcome back to Wes's Corner. Today we're going to be discussing the television drama Breaking Bad, which ran for 64 episodes on AMC between 2008 to 2013. Envisioned by creator Vince Gilligan as a journey from Mr. Chips into Scarface, the story details the life of Walter White, a man of science destined for greatness, only to become a high school chemistry teacher in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Walter is 50 years old at the start of the series, father to Walter Jr., and married to Skylar, who is pregnant with their second child who would be born during the run of the series. Stricken with a diagnosis of terminal lung cancer, Walt initially keeps this news hidden. He needs to come up with money for treatment and to secure his family's future after his death. While on a ride along with his DEA agent brother-in-law Hank, Walt sees his former student Jesse Pinkman get his meth lab busted during a raid. He then realizes that this is a very lucrative business after seeing the money recovered by the DEA, and with his chemistry knowledge, Walter can fix his financial concerns. He then asks to partner up with Jesse. From there, the story takes off. At this point, there will be spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled about this show, feel free to click off. If you don't care or if you've already seen it, keep watching. Initially unassuming on the surface, as Walt descends further into the criminal underworld with Jesse, they become acquainted with money laundering, deaths of those they know, all the way to committing murder. We see the full scope. Beginning in the first episode with the death of Emilio, followed shortly after by Walt's killing of Crazy 8, being captured by Tuco and then escaping, the death of Jane, Jesse's girlfriend, inadvertently caused by Walt, followed by a plane crash, then eventually leading to the eventual deaths of Gus Fring, the prisoners, Mike, Hank, Lydia, and the Nazis led by Jack. As Walt gets deeper into the realm of meth and the criminal underworld, he becomes more proud, confident, arrogant, and even reckless. This is a man who had been dealt a shit hand and ended up being the head of a ruthless empire, before falling from grace and eventually dying unceremoniously. His fall comes to a head in the antepenultimate episode Ozymandias, which is named for the poem that aptly illustrates his hubris and the destruction of his empire. Was he always so prideful, so arrogant? Was Walt's narcissism something that had always existed within him, even when he was younger? When he was part of Gray Matter Industries? We know very little about Walt's parentage to bring genetics into his narcissistic tendencies. Walt does tell his son, Walter Jr., aka Flynn, that his father died of Huntington's disease when Walt was 6 years old, and that he had wished to have known him better. This is mentioned in only one episode. We don't have a name or anything else to work from. Walt's mother is still alive during the series, but simply appears to act as a satellite character for Walt's own misdeeds. Nothing is really known about her beyond the fact that she exists, as she's never seen on screen and is only mentioned in a few episodes. As far as Walt's son, Walter Jr. is concerned, we don't see much that would signify any major mental health issues. He does have the cerebral palsy, difficulty in getting around, the mobility issues, but nothing that seems to incapacitate him as far as his mental intelligence goes, beyond what would naturally result from the drama brought about by Walt's own issues. Holly, their daughter, is still far too young at the end of the series to make any comment about, so we can really only go by Walt's own words and actions. At the very least, Walt does seem to suffer from narcissism. This becomes especially evident as the persona of Walter White fades and the persona of Heisenberg becomes more prominent. He needs to have a reputation. His name needs to be known. Take, for example, his speech to Skylar in Cornered. Who are you talking to right now? Who is it you think you see? Do you know how much I make a year? Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. Do you know what would happen if I suddenly decided to stop going to work? A business big enough that it could be listed on the NASDAQ goes belly up, disappears, ceases to exist without me. No, you clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No, I am the one who knocks. He growls almost hysterically, frantically at her, posturing himself as this menace to society. Walter has to be the man in charge, the man on top. This escalates even further in Season 5, Episode 7, Say My Name, when Walt meets Declan. Walt's reputation is spread, and he gets off on this power, knowing it and having others acknowledge it. Don't dare insult him. Mike Ehrmantraut learned the hard way after calling him out on his narcissism, his pride, and his ego. He bullies his attorney, Saul Goodman, earlier in the season when Saul tries to get out of the game. We're done. When I say we're done, scowls Walt. He manipulates those closest to him, especially Jesse. In Season 3, Episode 7, 1 Minute, Jesse is injured and in the hospital. Walt goes to talk to him. Jesse wants out. He unloads on Walt. After the blow-up, Walt simply states, Your meth is good, Jesse. As good as mine. 2 sentences leave Jesse questioning everything. Just like that, Walt pulled him back in. When Brock was poisoned by the Lily of the Valley, Walt convinced Jesse that it was because of Gus, even though Jesse suspected Walt due to Jesse's rice and cigarette being gone. Walt was again the mastermind behind that operation, as revealed in Season 4, Episode 13, Face Off. The rice and cigarette had indeed been lifted off Jesse, but Walt had another fake one planted in Jesse's wound to further convince him that he was innocent, shown in Season 5, Episode 2, Madrigal. But it is not only Jesse that Walt attempts to manipulate with his evil ways. In Season 5, Episode 11, Confessions, Walt provides a video of his confession to Hank, which implicates Hank as the mastermind behind the operation, and states that the money made from manufacturing meth went towards Hank's surgery and physical therapy after a nearly fatal altercation with the Salamanca twins in Season 3. Again, Walt has the upper hand, but Walt's empire does come crashing down. By the end of Season 5, Episode 14, Ozymandias, Walt has comparatively little money left from his original $80 million. Hank and his partner Gomi are dead. Walt has admitted his role in Jane's death, coldly telling Jesse how he watched her die, and he could have saved her, but he didn't. He then sells out Jesse to the Nazis and leaves. You'd think he would have learned. But the man's arrogance is staggering. After the identity eraser has gotten Walt up to New Hampshire, Walt has spent a number of months in solitude, leaving only when necessary. His cancer has returned at this point. He is getting makeshift chemo treatments and is burning money to stay warm, a shell of his former self. It may seem as though he would die in obscurity, only to be eventually forgotten by everybody except those he had hurt, until he finds himself at a bar, preparing to turn himself in. And then he sees his old partners, Gretchen and Elliot Schwartz of Grey Matter, on the TV discussing him and minimizing his contributions to the company that he had helped found. Again, Heisenberg's name has been tarnished, and he will not stand for that. He steals a car, makes his way back to New Mexico, where he first employs intimidation tactics on Gretchen and Elliot, giving them money to use as a trust fund for his family under threat of death. He then goes to his estranged wife, finally admitting after so long that he did the meth business for himself. He liked it. It made him feel good, and he did it for him. After claiming throughout the majority of the series that he did it for the family. He says goodbye to his daughter, watches his son through the window one last time, and leaves, making one final stop at the Nazi compound. There he gets revenge, freeing Jesse from his captors, and going on a blood-filled rampage against Jack and the Nazis. Walt himself is struck by a stray bullet, but he does what he went there to do. He goes to the lab for one last look at a cook site. There he dies. Thus, Walter White's reign of terror is over. Walter White is a brilliantly constructed example of narcissistic traits, one of the best that I have ever seen on television. There are so many more incidents that I didn't include in this video that I could have. His rant in the school after the plane crash, his brilliant fuck yous to his old car wash boss Bogdan, the fugue state, the multiple cell phones. There's so much to cover on just Walt alone. And it's nothing without noting the fantastic acting by Bryan Cranston, who deservedly won multiple Best Actor Emmys for his performance. Walter himself was without a doubt mentally ill. But when we talk about mental illness, narcissism doesn't get mentioned enough. It is a very real condition that affects a lot of people, and it can be dangerous. Now, Breaking Bad may take it to an extreme, but it is not outside the realm of possibility that something like this can happen. I would like to do a part 2 of this video focusing more directly on Jesse's mental health, if there's a good enough reception to this video at least. As always, I would like to see your discussion down below. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like what you see. I'm also always looking for new video ideas as well, so if you'd like to make any suggestions, there is a discussion tab, or you can comment on this video as well. Next video I'll be doing is my own experience living with bipolar disorder, and then there's an autism related video coming up soon as well. But that is all for today. I do thank you for visiting Wes's Corner. Goodbye.